Hi guys, so in this third part of our project, we are going to focus on the backend because right now we have the front end ready. So if I say pizza, for example, and I click the button here, it's going to fetch pizza for me, all right? So now we have built these pages. So we have used React Router DOM to have our login page and the sign up page and the home page here. Now we are going to focus a bit on the backend before we come back here, right? So because we need to save the user's favorites, handle login and logout, okay, and the sign up here. So for that, I'm going to open here a brand new folder and call it mail server. We have already the project running on another code editor. So I'm using here Atom, and I'm going to just crack open my terminal here and npm init -y. This is going to help me have the package.json ready, and I can now install Express, first of all. And Express is a way for me to basically have a server, all right? So in a new terminal, I can say touch, okay, which is just a way to create a new file here. So I can say server.js, which is going to create the server.js file for me, all right? And this server.js file is where we'll have our Express server running. So I can say const express. So to require express like this, and const app equals express. All right, and now after I can just say app.listen. So to listen to a port, let's say 5000, and we'll say, okay, we'll use console.log, okay, to say server running at 5000. So we need as well in the other terminal, we need as well to install npm I nodemon, and we need to have bcrypt, all right, for hashing the password, and we need mongoose as well as JSON web token. So this is going to install these packages that we need basically to JSON web token is a way to have a token, okay, to save the user state for your application. All right. So the next thing is to connect our application with MongoDB, so our database. But before that, let's create here our routes, the routes file. So let's say create a new file, new file, save it as routes.js, and this is going to be the routes. All right, so I can say const routes. Let's rename it as user routes. Let's say rename as user routes, and we can say equals, so express, let's say const router equals we require express dot router, all right, and we can say here the next line router that, okay, get or that post. So we can say post, first of all, sign up, or we can say it's post users, all right, and it's going to take async here with a request and a response to handle the sign up, all right. And we need now to create our user, we need to have, of course, MongoDB. And for that, I'm going to create here a brand new file and call it okay, db.js, all right. And we'll need this database, this db, to have connection with our database. So we are going to use mongoose. So we have bcrypt and we have mongoose. So we have mongoose, which is here. So I can say const mongoose equals, so we require mongoose, all right. And we are going to now connect to our atlas. All right, so we can just say MongoDB atlas and connect, create a new account, or either create a new account or connect with our DB. So I'm going to sign up with Google, okay? And you can do the same. So you can just sign up with Google, and I'll see you on the other side. Right, guys. So after you sign up or you create an account, okay, it's going to direct you here. So if you have a new account, you can just follow the setup. Okay, you don't need to do anything else. Just follow the setup until you reach this point. So this is like where you have your MongoDB database, and we are going to connect, okay, to our cluster. So a cluster is just like a cluster where you can hold a lot of databases, all right, inside. So it's a free cluster, so you don't need to worry about it. So I can just click on connect, and I can connect, okay, with my application. So now I need to copy this one, and okay, here save it. I can say URI equals, and I put it in backticks like this, and I can paste it. All right, so now we need to have our username and our password here, and I can just, because I have already have here database access, I have some users already. But if it is not your case, okay, I will link to in the description the video that's going to help you set up your MongoDB. So I made a previous video on it. All right. So what you need to do is just to create a new user. Okay, allow network access, whitelist, okay, your IP address, and we can just, okay, add a new database user or take one of these. So I can edit this one because I need to have a new password. All right, so I can just edit the password, generate secure password to show it here. So I can just copy, all right, and update the user, which I will change later, of course. So now I can come back here, and then the password, I can paste it like this, and the username, which is learn code. So learn code, okay. And now you have the database, which should be Meals app, let's say. All right. So now you have this URI, and all you have to do is to say mongoose dot connect. Okay. So using the URI and .zen. Okay. We can just say have a callback function here. So console.log and say connected. All right. And that catch, of course. So if there is an error, we want to console.log the error like this. All right, and now what we need to do is to require this file. Okay, so in the server.js here where we have express, I can just say require, okay, /db like this, and in the user routes here, what we need to do here is to create our models. Okay, but before that, let's check if the connection is ready. So it's updated here, so we can check if it's ready. We installed nodemon, so I'm going to use nodemon in the package.json here. Create here a new command for dev, which is going to call nodemon server.js like this, and I can run the dev command to start nodemon. Nodemon is just a way for the development, all right, to make it faster. Every time that you make a change, it's going to reload it for you. Now you see connected, all right, so which means that the database is connected correctly. All right, so it's asking us for some options, so we are going to add them in the connect. So let's look at our DB. We can add it here in the connect. Okay, so the option here, we have use new URL parser, which is true. So it's going to ask us for use new URL parser, which is use new, yeah, like this. Okay, and then we have another one, use unified topology, so we can add it. Use unified topology, which is true. Okay, so now we are connected and the server is running. The next step is to create our model. So I'm going to have here a new file and call it user model.js, and I'm going to import, so const mongoose equals, so require mongoose, and here have const, okay, user schema equals, so mongoose dot schema, and in this mongoose dot schema, this is where I'll have the user attribute. So I need to have email, which is type of string, and let's make it required true, and unique, we make it true. We can say here unique to be true, and we can have here the password, which is going to be type of string, all right, and of course we make it required for the user. And we need as well to have email password, we need to have token, which is going to be type of string, and yeah, so like this. Okay, after the schema, now we can make a model by calling const user equals, okay, so we can say here new mongoose.schema, and we can say here mongoose.model. So we give a model user and with a schema, which is the user schema. All right, and we export by saying module.exports equals, so we export the user. So now we have a user model, type string, password, okay, and a token. And we will now use this to connect it with our route. So when we post, what we want to do is we want to create a new user by saying const user. Let's put it in a try catch first. So try catch, okay, by saying const user equals, we await the creation of our user that will import. So const user equals, we require it from our the user model like this, and we await the creation of, okay, so await user that create, and with request that body. All right, now catch, we can say after we create a user, I mean, we want to res that JSON, okay, we send back the user, and in the catch we can say res that status if things don't happen as intended, we send, okay, here we can just send the user. Right, so now we have the users, and we can say module.exports equals, so the router, and this router we will use it in our server.js. First we import it by saying const user routes equals require, okay, that slash, we require the user routes like this, And now we'll use, so app.use user routes. All right. And we need as well to have app.use here. We need to say, let's see how. So we say app.use express dot URL encoded, and we say extended to true, so that we can we can decode, okay, the data that's coming from, let's say, the front end. All right, so let's require it's required here. All right, and now we have our routes here, the user routes. All right, and now we can connect this to our front end. So when we create a new user, we want it to hit the user routes here, okay, /users, and it should create a new user for us and then send us back that new user, right? So we can use Postman to test just our application before we test it on our front end. So I'm going to create here a new collection. So this collection will be for us to, let's say, mails app, right? And then inside this collection, I can create a request and call it sign up. All right. And now we can send a post request. So HTTP localhost 5000 and /users, right? And we need to send the username and the password. So I can say here body and the URL from encoded. Okay, so the URL encoded here. We can say here email, so user at example.com, and we say password. We say password, okay, and we can send it to see what we have. And we have an 500 error, which means we need to inspect to see what's going on. We can say console.log here, console.log e, to see what we have. So open Postman again, send again, and inspect our error. All right, so here it says that the path email is required, so it's not seeing this. So if we look at, we can inspect console.log by saying rec.body to see what you have. So when we send a new information to see what we have. Let's see what we have. Oh, no. So it's not seeing actually this. So all right, guys. So here we made a mistake by using the routes before we used this URL encoded. So let's remove this. This wasn't here. So you can keep it like that, and we can try again. Send back. And now I should create our user, right? So like, as you can see, it's creating a new user and then sending us back that new user. We can inspect that the database, okay, to see. Let's click on browse connection to look at our collections. And we have this meals app, all right? So to look at our users. And now we should see our first user, which is this one. So you have this database, okay, connecting to the app. And now the next thing we need to do here is to hash our database. Okay, so before we save it, because we need to hash the database before saving it, so that even if somebody, let's say, hashes your database, he won't be able to know the password, okay, for your users. So for that, we are going to use bcrypt. Okay, so bcrypt is a way of hashing your database, basically. All right. So now we can have here a method. Okay. So by saying here user schema, so user schema dot pre. Okay. So we say save. We will have async here. So a function. And this function, okay, we'll have a next inside the function. Okay, and we say const user equals this. And we say await, okay, we use bcrypt that hash. We hash the user that password. And we need to have here, okay, we can use hash sync, okay, we to that password. And after that, we can say, after we hash the user with the salt, we can call the next. Okay, so the next is a way to go to the next middleware, right? Now we can add here some verification to say that if, okay, so the user that is modified, which means that we are modifying the password of the user like this. Only at that point we are going to hash our user's password like this, all right? And after that we just we simply call the next. All right, so now when we save, okay, before we save the user, we are going to crypt the password and then call the next. But we need to call this. No, we actually don't need to call it because we have a pre-save. So it's just going to call it automatically. We can try again with user one here and see what we'll have. All right, so we're having a bcrypt, which is not defined, so we need to import bcrypt by saying const bcrypt equals, so let's say bcrypt here. Remove this. All right, and now we can try again using the password, and it's not working. Let's see why. Not this one. Okay, so here we need to say user that password, of course, and assign it now to the hashed password. Let's try again with user 3, number 3. Send. And we see that now the password is hashed. So because of the pre, okay, we have here, it's going to save it automatically. Okay, so we use the hash sync with bcrypt to hash it with this. This is assault. This is like how many times it's going to hash it. Okay, so that's it. And we call the next to pass it to the next middleware, which is just to continue on here, okay, in the user app. All right. So now the next is to connect, okay, this to our front end. So we can have here in our front end, right? So when we sign up, okay, we need to have a function that's called handle sign up, like this. So a function that's called handle sign up, and this handle sign up, we'll call it when we submit. All right, or in the form here we can say on submit, and we'll call handle sign up. All right, so you can make this so required, and we make the password as well required. Right, and now we can as well make like some checks here. So if email or password, so we can use exclamation by saying email doesn't exist, or we can check if, so we check if the password doesn't exist or password. Okay, so we want to return an alert by saying please fill out the fields, like this, and else. Now we are going to call Axios. So we say Axios that post, okay, we post to users with the email and the password. So we can have here an object that says email and password for our payload. And that then, when you get the response, so it's going to be, we can have here, this use the structuring to take the data coming from the response. And we can say console.log the data, all right? And of course, we can have here that catch that takes an error, and we log the error like this. Okay, so now we can open our app, the sign up page, okay, and say user at example.com, and the password as well. We can have here some password. Let me just password here, submit. And because we need to have, okay, the event prevent this default, we can say here e that prevent default, like this, so that it doesn't submit automatically. So password, we can say password submit, and we can inspect now to see what's going on. All right, so it says not found. Look at all right, because we need to have actually, so here HTTP localhost 3000 5000 I mean /users. So because we have user already, we can say user for, okay, submit. And now we are having this course, okay, so the course from the origin 3000 has been blocked by course policy. So to correct that, what we need to do is in the backend here, okay, in a new terminal, I'm going to install npm I course, and we'll use course for the app. So I can say in the server.js const course equals, so require course, like this, and use the course now by saying app.use course. Okay, and now it should be fine. We can try again. So let's submit again. All right, so let's see what's going on. All right, so here we need to have this course after we have, before we use the routes. So here, and we can try again. Submit. Let's restart user 4 at example.com. Password, submit. All right, so now we are not having the course anymore, but we are having some server error. Let's see what the server error is. Okay, so now it's not actually sending the it's not sending the user and the password. So let's see what's going on. But use, let's add here app.use express.json to see. Let's send it again. All right, so now we have this. Okay, so user example. You need to add express.json here, all right, as well as the URL encoded. So now we have the ID, the password, and the actual user, all right. So after we got this, we can now set the user, because in our context API, what we had was here function to set the user. So we have mail set mails. Now we need to have const, okay, user set user equals use state. Okay, so we have null here, or we can just have, let's have null here, right? And in the value, we want to set the user by making user and set user available. And in the sign up here, we can take it, okay, from the context by saying const user equals use context. All right, and now it's going to be we need to import here from our context the my context. So the my context like this, as well as set user. Actually, we don't need the user, we just need the set user. Okay, and now after we get the data here, we can just say set user to set it with the data that we have, like this. All right, so now what we can do is to inspect. So let's use user, let's say 5 at example.com, password, okay, submit. And we can now look at the components here to see what we have in our provider. So let's look at context. So we have the user here in our context, which is, okay, the email and the password. All right, so now we have dealt with this, okay, the sign up. Next time, in the previous video, we'll see that this is not actually what we intend to do, but from now, okay, we can do it like that. So at the same time, we can have here, so the user routes, we can have router.post, okay, for the login. And for the login, it's going to be async request response at the same time. So all we have to do is to find, okay, the user with the credentials that are sent from our database. So we need to say extract, all right, equals rec.body, of course. So we can say here username, not username, but email, and the password, okay, for the login. And the next is we use try catch. So we try to say const user equals await and user dot find by credentials. So find by credentials. This doesn't exist, so we'll create it. Username, and the password. Okay. And after we find it, all we have to do is to raise that status to 100, and we send the user like this. And to catch, okay, let's remove this. We don't need it. To catch it, we say let's console log errors. Even if we will, we won't need it in the production, but it's just a good way to debug the app. Raise that status. So 500. That's send. All right. So now we have something for the login. Now for the credentials, the find by credentials, this is going to be a method that doesn't exist yet. So we'll create it. And it's going to be in the user models, right? So the same as the pre-save, we can define here user schema. Okay, that's statics. So statics is a static method, okay, by saying find by credentials. It's going to be a async function, and this is going to take, of course, so async function. So an anonymous function, username, and not username, email, and password. All right. So after we do that, we can say const user equals. So we say await user. So we find one. Okay, with the username. All right. So after we do that, after we find one, we can check things. So if there is a user, what we do is we are going to take that user, okay, and then compare it with a password, this password. So the user has a password, we'll compare it with a password. And if they match, what we'll do is we'll send back the user, okay. So we say, we can have here, let's remove this if user. We can say if actually there is no user, okay. What we do is we are going to throw new error by saying invalid credentials. It means that the email doesn't exist. So invalid credentials. All right. And we can say here await, so which means if there is a user, const password match. So we await for it to check if the password match, okay, by saying bcrypt. We have bcrypt that compare string, okay, and we compare two things. We compare the user's password with the password coming from the front end. So we can say the password with user.password. All right, and now this is going to be true or false, okay. So if password match, if it doesn't match, let's say, if it doesn't match, what do you do? So if it doesn't match, we throw new error by saying invalid credentials still, because we don't want to be very precise on the error. We don't want to say that the email is fine, the password is not fine. We don't want to give any indications to do that for the security, right? But else, okay, what we want to do is we want to return the user. So that's it. And this method, okay, is going to be give us either like an error that's going to be a catch by our try catch, or it's going to give us this user and then we send back the user. All right, so now we can look at we can test things out by having here a new request. So let's add a new request, duplicate it, and say login. Okay, so by sending a post request to login, and we send, what do we send here? We send email as the sign up, so user for at example.com, and the password as well. So password, we say password. All right, so not in the params, but so let's put it in the body as URL encoded, and say email user for example.com, and the password, we say password. We send the password, and now let's send this login, and we are having errors. So let's see, what is this error here? Username, actually it should be email. Okay, let's look at the user model. Okay, we're sending email and test it out again. Let's see what we have, any other error. Okay, I'm still having this username. Where am I having it? Username is not defined. User model line 28. User model. Email. Right. Right, so let's see. Login. And now we are logged in. Right, so it's sending back it's sending us back this login page. So if I had here, let's say 1234, this is not a good password, so it doesn't work, and it sends like this 400, which means that the user, okay, invalid credentials. All right, so now we can test this out here in the login. So user for and password, user password, and this is not working because we need to we need as well to deal with that. So I'm going to copy this, and in the login page, okay, because they are the same basically. So we can say handle login. All right, and then we can have here on submit equals handle login. We can take this from the email, okay, this context, and put it here, and import use state, and use context, as well as Axios. So import Axios from Axios. All right, and the my context as well. So my context. All right, so let's just copy this because I don't want to lose time here. Copy the whole form. It's the same basically. I can just copy it and come back here. This one I can just remove. Actually, I need to copy this whole thing. All right, like this. And we'll paste it here. Now we can change this handle login. All right, and now it should be fine. So when we send the login, we send as well the email and the password. All right, so here you can say login. Let's change the buttons so that we know that which one is the login. So log in. All right, let's remove this check me out. This one, we don't need it. So the email address user for the password as well. Password. Let's see. Okay, so we are having errors here. Let's see what's going on. It's saying invalid credentials. We can inspect in our route. We can inspect the console.log rec.body to see. All right, let's see what we have. So in the network, what are we sending? The headers. So we send this and the password. Let's see if it's seen by our app. All right, so here, actually with the Axios, we need to be careful because we are sending it to the user. So we should send it to login. Okay, so let's try again. All right, and it's probably working because we don't get any errors here. Let's look at the response. Geez, let's restart. User 4, password as password. And let's log in. All right, so now we see that, okay, we are getting some response with the user credentials. So now the next thing is when we get the user, okay, we want to, let's say, hide this, okay, and then just move on to the home page. And then you cannot come back here to log in again. So how to do this? So we have a state, okay, the user. That's how we know that there is a user, all right. So in the app where we have our routes, we need to say here, all right, so let's have some fragment, the login and the sign up. And we can say here, the user, if there is a user coming from the context, so use context and my context. So if there is a user, which means user, let's say here, user n, and we are going to allow this, okay, like this. So if there is a user, okay, if there is no user, so we can say not user, and we can have the login and the sign up. But if there is a user, we don't want to show these routes. And at the same time, if you look at our components, the navbar here, the same. So const user equals, we can say use context, and we use the my context like this, and the same, right? So the login and the sign up, we want to hide them, and they are here. Okay, in this collapse, we can say not user, and okay, only that at that point will show it. It should be actually here. If there is no user, okay, we show the login and the sign up. Alright, so it's saying cannot destructure property user of object. So we need to see what's going on. Right, guys, so here we are having this issue because we are trying to use the context before we actually send it. So this actually should be where it should be in index.js. Right, so we should have this context, okay, wrapped in the index.js. So I'm going to in the index.js, okay, so we should wrap this app context so that we can use the context in our app like this, and app.js here, okay, the app context is now, we can now remove it from here. All right, because we are trying to use something before we actually set it up. So it should be here, the app context. Now let's see. Okay, so we see that it's now working. So in the login page, okay, I actually removed it, but it should be not here. I mean, in the navigation, the navbar. Okay, you don't need to do anything because that's what I was testing something. So here we put it back by saying not user if there is no user. So we show it like this. Okay. All right, so now if you log in again, login password, login, right? So we say password, login. Having some errors. Okay, so he actually, where is the login? Should be okay, because I was testing something, but it should be login. So we don't need to do anything. Let's try again. So it says this page doesn't exist or is private. Okay, so this is fine. So it means now that when I show this, because we don't have anything, okay, so the nav is hidden, it's kind of hidden. All right, so because, yeah, so I was saying that because of that, we cannot have this, the links. If I extend it, you don't see the login or the password here, which means that the login is working. All right. So in the next video, what we will do is we will now set the token with JSON Web Token, and as well as auto login feature, so that you don't lose the state, because right now when we refresh the page, we lose the state. Okay, so we need to deal with that to log in automatically and save that state into our local storage. So just only the token that will generate. All right, and then after that, we can now come back to this, the front end, all right, and deal with adding stuff to your favorite. Let's say you add the meal, and then to be able to retrieve it, okay, in your dashboard. All right, so I hope you like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.